good evening, and welcome to everyone who is joining me tonight. This is PJs with PJ, and I am Pastor Jeannie Sortland, and I serve the United Methodist Churches in Kensal and Wimbledon, North Dakota. So I'm glad that you're here with me tonight. And I also invite you to consider joining on those churches' Facebook pages Thursday at 7 and Friday at 7 for our Holy Week services. And we will be remembering the Last Supper that Jesus had with his disciples on Thursday at 7. And so have something available to you that represents the bread and the wine. And it can be anything that you happen to have. Crackers and water, bread and juice, pasta and milk. I mean, there's many different things that you can use. And then Friday, we will be entering into a time of reflection about what it really was like for Jesus at the cross. And so I invite you to join us at those times. But today, our PJ's talk is going to focus on loneliness, as I think that is something that might be plaguing some that are listening. And I know I find myself kind of complaining about how my kids are driving me crazy. Maybe my husband's driving me crazy. But that is an incredible blessing at this time that I have those people around me. And I know not everyone is that fortunate. I think especially of widows and widowers, and how lonely it likely can be. And so I thought we could maybe talk about how Jesus experienced loneliness. And in Matthew 26, as we're walking through the Passion of Christ, we get to the Garden of Gethsemane. And Jesus goes off on his own to pray, and he asks his disciples to stay awake with him, and they can't do that. They fall asleep. So basically, he's up praying through the night all by himself. And then one of his disciples betrays him. Judas gave him up. And I imagine how lonely and frightening that must have felt. And then, after he's been betrayed, Peter denies him, denies even knowing him. Peter, like the super disciple. I mean, this guy was all in. He's the one that jumped out of the boat when he saw Jesus. And yet he said, no, I don't know who this guy is. So here was Jesus, all alone, going to his crucifixion. And so I think there's some things that we could learn from Jesus and some practical tips that we can apply during times of loneliness. I think that we can focus on things above. Jesus was always focusing on God and heaven and not worried about what was going on in the world around him. And Colossians chapter 3, verse 2 states, "Set your mind on things above, not on things on the earth." I think that's practical advice any time. I think that helps us stay out of the drama and the fray, the tensions of the world. We do need to kind of stay aware of what's going on in the world, but keep our minds above that. And the second thing I think we can do is seek a meaningful connection with God. And this is pretty much done through prayer and Bible reading, maybe listening to worship music throughout the day. K-Love is a good channel. And James chapter 4, verse 8 says, "Draw near to God, and God will draw near to you." So I think if we are intentional about our time spent with God, that we will feel the presence of God more fully, more strongly, filling some of those empty and lonely places. And then the third thing, don't wait for other people. If you're sitting around lonely, you can be the one that initiates the phone call. You know, I think of what meaningful connections that you could have, like with people of your church. If you start randomly calling down the church list and just saying, hey, how's it going? You might create relationships or strengthen relationships in ways that couldn't probably have been done in situations other than this. And so don't wait for people to call you. Reach out. And I know, like my father-in-law, he can't hear. But you know what? I don't mind shouting on the phone with him for a little while, seeing what's going on. And I think there are other people that would get a kick out of the things that go on in Dwayne's head. So hopefully Dwayne is connecting with some people. And also, if you happen to have an iPhone, FaceTime tends to work better, I think, for people that have hearing impairments. And so maybe you need to learn how to use FaceTime to reach out. And spread it out, because we're trying to work from home. We're trying to educate our kids. We would love to hear from people, but we can't be the only call that people are making. And so make sure to share the goodness, checking in with other people. And Romans 12, verse 5 assures us that there is that meaningful connection in the body of our church. So we, being many, are one body in Christ and individually members of each other. And so as we are in these difficult times, as we might be feeling loneliness, we are all connected through Jesus Christ. So make sure, those of us that aren't feeling lonely, let's try to remember to reach out to those that are lonely. But then also those of you that are lonely, we are here. We may not have thought to call, but if you call us, we are more than joyed to take the call. So have a good, peaceful night's rest. Goodbye.